Good afternoon. Now I'm doing something, I'm kind of out of character right now. I'm serving as the MC, so I'm going to do my best, so bear with me. This is an exciting day, but as I begin to start with my remarks, I'd just like to offer a moment of silence for Ron Scott, certainly an advocate, a leader in our community who fought for what was doing right for many years. And I personally have one regret. I know that we didn't always see things eye to eye, but certainly in his last days we had an opportunity to have a lot of positive discussions. I just regret that we didn't have a chance for me and Ron to sit down and talk about some historical here in Detroit, and that was something that I certainly was looking so forward to. So we would just have a moment of silence for Ron Scott. Thank you. Well, today is a great day. This is truly an outstanding day. And I will tell you, it's no secret that when I arrived here, now over 2 years, 2.5 years ago, one of the things that was certainly near and dear to me was the issue called morale. No secret that morale in the Detroit Police Department was at the rock bottom. I knew about the pay, the fact that the police officers had 10% of their pay. In addition to that, to add insult to injury, they were forced, and I use the word forced, into working 12-hour shifts. And the fact that the morale of our community was even touched by it because no longer existed was neighborhood police stations that were closed at 4 o'clock. The fact that our Detroit police officers, and I talked a lot about dilapidated police vehicles and aged technology. Those things mattered, and certainly those things made a difference in how this city was policed. And having conversations with police officers, those were the things they brought. And then they also said, Chief, one thing that resonated with me was that we just want to be police officers again. We just want to be able to do our jobs. We want to be supported. And so certainly committed to that, things began to change. But as the mayor came in the office, the mayor and I had certainly lots of discussions about the police department, about moving forward. And I just right now want to give a hearty thank you to the mayor for his bold leadership, because I will tell you, when it became known that there was some money on the table that we could apply somewhere in the city, I fought tremendously hard and urged the mayor, can we put it in policing? I mean, when you look at any great city in America, those cities that are turnaround cities, the investment in public safety was so apparent. Frankly, that wasn't the case here in Detroit. Historically, we know that there was very little investment in public safety. When you look at the equipment, the fact that we fell so far behind other police agencies in terms of salaries, those were issues. But after a strong urging to the mayor said, that makes sense. And I just want to publicly thank him now for his leadership and listening to something that I saw as soon as I arrived here 2.5 years ago. I certainly want to thank the Police Commission who are here today. I know we have Lisa Carter, our president, Willie Burton, Richard Shelby, and Eva DeWash. I want to thank you all. Oh, and Betty Brooks. Sorry, I didn't see you come in. And Willie Bell. Is Willie Bell here? Anybody else I'm missing? I want to thank all of you for your support, because I know that during meetings I brought up the issue of wages, and you certainly have been very supportive of us doing something very different. I certainly want to thank the council for their support, who every time the issue of salaries and wages come up, they're very receptive. I know you will hear shortly from Council Member Janie Ayers. Is anyone else here from the council? So that I don't. You're it. And certainly, I want to thank the union leadership, because without union leadership, we've had countless conversations about wages, working conditions. I meet monthly with each of the union leadership, and it's always been positive. And I understand, despite, the issues of wages and really working on morale, they have supported me tremendously during this transition. And so we talk about today, and we talk about increased wages. I mean, there's 3 basic goals that we looked at And one of the things that certainly resonates hard with me is the issue called recruitment. You know, there's no secret that we have a challenge in recruitment, so raising the starting wage is critical. But also as critical is recruitment, and probably more so, and this really does come at the top of my list, is something called retention. It's no secret that we're losing officer after officer to smaller agencies, some here locally, some outside the state of Michigan. So basic wage increase is critical. We can't properly police this city without retaining those great officers. And you've heard me say we have some of the best officers of any place in America. And I can say that because I've worked in many different places. And then certainly something that I talked about early on is raising the standards of policing, commitment to education. And that's what opening this contract does. It addresses all those issues. But when I think about the great cities, the city where I spent 28 years, the city of Los Angeles, I remember vividly when the city was turning around and the city said, well, we want to invest in public safety. It wasn't the mayor. It wasn't the police chief. It was the police unions that said, wait a minute. We need you to invest in us because we're the ones that are going to make the city safe. And the city listened to that. The difference here in Detroit, you got a mayor, you got a police chief that fought hard to make this day become a reality. And so when I think about Cincinnati, another city that I spent some time as police chief, one of the things that was very clear to me was this investment in professionalizing policing. And that investment was because of one thing, education. Education and leadership, so critical. And then I guess it was about June, maybe May, I had an opportunity to attend a recruitment fair at Wayne State. And I'm looking around it's a law enforcement recruitment fair. I saw everybody, MSP, prominently displayed. But then I saw my old city, Cincinnati, right at the front of the recruitment fair. And I saw two well-dressed Cincinnati police officers with a big, bold sign, starting pay $52,000 a year. I said, something's wrong with this picture. Now, I appreciate the great work that the men and women of the Cincinnati Police Department do, but one thing I know for certain, having spent time there and spent time here, that we have the hardest working police officers in America. And so this is a step, a first step in the right direction. So I'm excited about this first step. I think you'll hear from union leadership that will also acknowledge this first step, but the steps taking place. And again, as I bring our mayor, I want to again thank him once again for listening to my plea for improving the working conditions of our officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I also want to start off by letting the family of Ron Scott know that our thoughts and our prayers are with them. He was an advocate in the greatest tradition of the city of Detroit. As we went through bankruptcy, this city lost a lot, and the men and women in uniform, in particular, were hit very hard. The 10% wage cuts, the reduction to retiree health care. And what we have to do now, coming out of bankruptcy, is start to build things back up. And we need to build them back up with the police department. We need to build them back up with the firefighters and the EMTs, because basically all of our uniformed personnel are making $10,000 on average or so less than their suburban counterparts. We're starting today with the police department, but we will, in the early part of next year, get to the firefighters and the EMTs. This is a step, because as we come out of bankruptcy, we have one overriding rule. We can't spend money we don't have. And that means out of the plan of adjustment, any dollar we want to give a police officer in raises has to come from someplace else. We have to identify it. We can't run a deficit. We have City Council and the Financial Review Commission that has to review every single action we take. And so that was the approach here. Where can we cut money from other places in order to put it into the men and women of the police department? The single biggest area was the consultant fees. And I think most of you know the story, but Judge Rhodes was good enough at the very end of the bankruptcy case to give me the opportunity to intervene in the case and challenge the fees that were being paid. And with the help of Jerry Rosen's mediation, we actually cut $30 million from the plan of adjustment that was saved. And when we went out for our exit financing earlier this year, that $30 million was saved. So we knew we had a starting point. So when Chief Craig came in, he said, look, here's the problem. We've got 220 vacancies in the department today. Officers that we have money in the budget to hire, but we haven't been able to hire. And when they're making $10,000 less than their suburban counterparts, it's going to be difficult. Now, 220 out of a department of 2,200 people, you can cover that through overtime. It's not a critical problem yet. But in a year or two, if we don't act, it's going to become a critical problem. And the chief says the time to act is not when it's a crisis. The time to act is now. And if you look at our academy classes, and basically we are putting 30 new officers in academy every 2 months. And so in July we had 27, wasn't quite 30. Then in September we had 23. Now the class that started this month started with 16 and we have 14 left. You can see where this is going. We want to keep adding 30 every 2 months, but we've got to be competitive in the price. And so the chief and I sat down about 6 weeks ago at lunch with the Board of Police Commissioners Chair Lisa Carter and the Vice Chair Willie Bell, and we talked through this issue and said this is something we want to address. And it's the kind of collaboration that we are now developing, and the leadership of the Board of Police Commissioners said this is something we've got to do. We're going to support it. But this is unusual because all of these unions, the command officers, the lieutenants and sergeants, and the Detroit police officers, they all have contracts that were ratified in bankruptcy in 2014. They all have contracts that run through June 30th of 2019. And so what we were talking about doing is something that hasn't been done. Not waiting till 2019 and having an arm wrestling contest at the bargaining table, but instead to step in now and say, let's cut some spending in other areas and enhance the officers' pay. And so, as the chief said to me, I got to fill the academy classes. Let's get the starting pay from $31,700 to $36,000. We think that will be a significant bump and help us attract people, and that is in this plan. Second, long term for all the officers. Let's commit to a 4% base pay increase January 1st for all our officers and make a clear statement that we are going to address this. This isn't going to catch our officers up in one fell swoop, and Detroit's not in a position to do that. But it's a statement that we care, that as the city's finances improve, we are going to act to spend what we can, and I hope in the future we are able to do this again. And third, the chief says we have got to upgrade the professionalism of the department for the long run. If you look where policing is going now, we've got laptops in patrol cars. We've got data-driven crime analysis. We've got real-time crime centers. The level of education that we will need going forward, and particularly as our officers grow into sergeants and lieutenants and captains, he says, I want to raise the standard. And so we put in two provisions. One is that we are going to reimburse all of our officers, command, lieutenants and sergeants, and police officers, up to $2,000 a year for their tuition for college courses. We reimburse them at the end of the semester after they've successfully completed the class. We want to encourage continuing education. And then in addition, we're going to pay 2% in base pay to every DPOA member who's got 2 years of college complete. So they can earn an additional 2% raise with 2 years. And for the lieutenants and sergeants, they get an additional 2% if they complete 4 years of college. So we've created an incentive for ongoing education for everybody that wants it. And if you think about how that can change this department over 5 or 10 years, and that's the way Chief Craig is looking at things, this will be able to do it. So we went and costed all that out in October, and we looked at this and said this is going to cost $41 million over 4 years. Between now and June 30th, 2019, $41 million paid to the sworn men and women of the city of Detroit. And we sat down with our chief financial officer, John Hill, and said, we have to go to the Financial Review Commission And I want to sit with them in October, which we did in a closed session. And I want to say to them, here's what we're thinking. Because, of course, the worst thing that could happen is these unions all go ratify the contract, and then the Financial Review Commission turns it down. And Council President Brenda Jones, of course, is on that Financial Review Commission and was able to participate in that conversation. And what John Hill has laid out is a plan where everything is paid for. $28 million of this will be paid for in the reduced payments on the consultant fees. Another $8 million, our chief financial officer found, was in the police operating budget to build a new 8th precinct next to the Myers on Grand River. Mr. Hill found old capital accounts from a decade ago that had the capital money in them to build the police precinct. And so we are going to appropriately use the capital funds to build the precinct, and that frees up $8 million to go into the operations of the department to help pay for this. And then Chief Craig identified another $5 million in operating savings over the next 4 years. Those three pieces together will pay for the $41 million. So once we knew that, we sat with the Financial Review Commission in October. We got an indication from them that they supported the direction. They reserved their right to review the final contract, but they said if you raise the starting pay, you raise everybody's pay 4%, you make a commitment to education, and if we're going to go open this contract up now, we need another year at the end of the contract. If you'll do those things, we're going to review it, but they were positive. And so what we did after that was actually a little bit different. Over the years, the city has played the different police unions off against each other. We did just the opposite. Chief Craig and I brought all three unions into the room together, and we did this in the last week or so. We brought everybody in together, and we said, this is going to be a deal where every one of you sees what each of the other unions is getting. We're going to have one police department with one standard of professionals. But it took a little while for the tension to die down. But this wasn't really a negotiation. We had authority for $41 million that we had cut. We basically laid the plan out and said to our unions, if you want $41 million more in pay over the next 4 years, here's a package we are prepared to do. It was not a traditional negotiation. And the unions have reviewed it. We made a couple of minor changes, but basically this is what we think we have authority to do. And so hopefully it will get ratified by the three unions in the next week or so. City Council has a scheduled date on December 17th. If it's done by then, they could take it up. The Financial Review Commission has a scheduled date on December 21st. It's a tall order to get through all of those, but if we do, the pay raises can be in place by January 1. The other thing that emerged in these conversations that I didn't appreciate until we started, and this is the value sitting down talking together, is that all of our uniformed personnel are very concerned about the retiree health care and the VEBA. And as you know, that was done in the bankruptcy, was done before I got here, and I had not really focused on it. But it's clear that we are not getting the value out of the retiree health care program that we should, particularly for the men and women who have been injured in the line of duty. For somebody to be injured in the line of duty and have to be worried about their or their family's health care is very concerning. And so, as the union leaders pointed out, I've got a pretty significant background in the healthcare industry, and I've made a commitment that I'm going to spend time and bring in the resources from my former colleagues in the healthcare industry, and we are going to make sure that we maximize the value of retiree healthcare that's been provided for. So we know this isn't the solution. This is a step, but I hope that the men and women of this department will see it for what it is, which is a real commitment on behalf of the people of the city of Detroit to say, we know what you're doing for us. We know we're not paying you as well as we should. This is what we can do now, and I hope as the city's finances continue to improve, we're back here a year or two from now and we continue to take those steps until all of our uniformed personnel are paid comparable with surrounding communities. And so that's where we are. I want to thank Chief Craig, who has been tenacious in pushing for this. I think we've got a good proposal, and hopefully it'll get approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And now I would like to bring our newest council member, Janae Ayers.
Why are you guys talking like this? Good morning. This is a good day. Excuse me. There should be more smiling faces in this room. So try it again. Good morning. All right. So as the mayor has already stated and Chief Craig has already stated, this is a great day for a step in the right direction. It's no secret that every public service officer in this city has been asked to do more with less. And so again, coming from a union perspective, this is the right step. We need to compensate people properly. And in doing so, we owe that to the citizens of Detroit, because those that are properly compensated, they do their job better. Everything is good in a neighborhood when you know that your public safety officers feel like they're appreciated. So again, I won't be before you long, but I do want to thank the mayor and I do want to thank Chief Craig for their tenacious activity, for them just being ahead of this issue. And again, we support all of our public safety officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Janae. And now I'd like to bring before you the president of the Command Officers Association, Commander Charles Mahone.
Good morning. This is truly a historical day. In my 25 years of serving here on the Detroit Police Department, no mayor, no chief has ever come to us and said, you know, we know your contract is closed, but we want to give you more money, and we understand that you're underpaid. And I know, just like it's been said up here previously, the chief has been saying that we're underpaid and we're undermanned. And I just want to thank Mayor Duggan again for, you know, trying to resolve this issue. Again, I see that city government is working, and again, it's working for us. The members of the Detroit Police Department are out there every day trying to take care of our citizens. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks again, Chuck. And now I'd like to bring before you the president of the Lieutenants and Sergeants Association, Sergeant Mark Young.
Good morning. Good morning. I echo the sentiments and the words of the mayor and the chief. This is truly historic. In my 28-and-a-half-year career, I've never seen this happen before. I can tell you this, over the last couple months, we've had more direct dialogue, more understanding and listening to what's going to turn this city around. I want to get the bankruptcy behind us. We have to move this forward. The only way it's going to move forward is with a partnership. And going forward, I do not want to see Merck, the Michigan Employment Relations Commission, in our future. We should be sitting across the table from the mayor and the chief working out all our issues. I am honored to stand before my membership and tell them to support this first step. We've given the mayor a wish list, and he's thought about some of the things that we talked about, and he says, going forward, let's make some of the things happen. The best stakeholders are the citizens of the city of Detroit. We need to make this a career. I'm asking my membership to support this proposal in its totality, and let's move the city forward. The people in this room are going to be the signature in what makes Detroit go forward. It's no longer the Motor City like it used to be. It's no longer Motown, but we can write a new history, and if we work together, that can happen. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you, Chief Craig.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thanks again, Mark. And now I'd like to bring Mark Diaz, the president of the DPOA.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by obviously recognizing everything that we've discussed this morning regarding working together. And it doesn't come by way of, as everyone always presumes, that a union and the employer always have to be at odds. And today is a great indication of how we're moving forward, and we're actually bringing benefits to not just our public safety, but to the citizens of Detroit by doing just that, with our leaders in the city of Detroit coming together with our unions and actually presenting something for our frontline heroes to better their lives. Says a lot about the dedication that our current leadership in the city of Detroit has to making lives better for our citizens. And I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to commend and say thank you to all of you. Thank you, if I may, yes. But in addition, as pointed out, we've had a very rough road that we've gone through over the last several years with the city employment terms that were imposed in 2012, with the city going into bankruptcy. And, well, let's just call it like it is. Our officers have definitely endured the brunt of that. This is absolutely a step in the right direction, a step towards hiring more qualified police officers, retaining the police officers that we have. No, it's not the answer. I think everyone can agree it is not the final solution. But what is the solution is what's taking place here today. Us working together with open dialogue and making it happen. With that said, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. Mayor Duggan, thank you, and Chief Craig, thank you.
Thanks again, Mark. At this point, I'd like to bring the President of the Police Commission, Lisa Carter.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners, I'd like to commend all of these good people for coming together and actually coming to an agreement. Because of this agreement, the citizens of the city of Detroit will be safer, feel safer, and will have more better educated officers on the street. They will have officers who feel like they come to work and they're deserving of everything that they do, everything that they receive. It's hard for officers to go out and do the right thing when they're not properly compensated. But because of our professional officers, they do that every day, and they've been doing that since the beginning. And I want to commend the mayor and the chief for coming to the Board of Police Commissioners, bringing this plan to the Board of Police Commissioners, and making that decision to take $41 million. That's a lot of money. $41 million to invest in our public safety. So on behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to the mayor. Thank you to the city council, and thank you to the chief for having that wherewithal to see that public safety is at the forefront. And we need to move forward with compensating these officers and having a better trained police force and having a well-educated police force. Thank you.
Thank you, Leisha. And as we prepare to open it for questions, I just want to say again, this is a great first step. And you look at any city across America, you talk about the turnaround city, the city of Detroit, an investment in public safety is a great investment. So with that, I open up for any questions you might have.
Chief, what's the term of the contract? Is it extended by a year?
It's extended by a year, yes.
To 20?
Was it 20?
June 30, 2020.
2020.
Chief, everybody has talked about this is a first step. I know you may be hesitant to give us a dollar number, but what in your mind would be the right starting salary?
You know, I can sit here. I mean, when you look at the region, cost of living, and you factor all those issues, you know, even our neighbor Southfield, I think they have a starting salary in the low 40s. I mean, the right number, again, we talk about the city of Detroit, and certainly it's no secret that is a challenge for our men and women to do the work here. And so there are other departments that start at a much higher rate. But again, this is a first great step in moving in the right direction. And I don't think it's going to stop here. I'm optimistic, and I know the mayor's committed to continuing to invest in this police department.
You know, what our officers are dealing with is significant, but the fact is the firefighters, the EMTs, the bus drivers, the mechanics, all of our employees are pretty much making less money than their suburban counterparts. And so what we have to do is, as the city recovers economically, we're going to continue to move steadily to make that right. It's going to take a period of years, but as you can see today, we're committed to do it, and I think a lot of folks will see that we're headed the right direction and stay with us.
You talk about as it improves, you could continue to add money where it's, appropriate. Does this specific deal have some terms in it that allow for it to be reopened and amended again if the financial position improves?
Anything, there's not a specific reopener, but there wasn't here anyway. So this is something where we went to the unions and said, even though the contract runs through June 30th of 19, we'd like to amend it and open it today. And two parties can always agree to reopen a contract. Usually it's easier when you reopen a contract for more money. I'm pretty sure their experience has been when the contract's been reopened over the years, it's been to go the other direction. So
There's no promise that it's locked in and it can't go up more. It could.
again, my commitment to every one of the employees of this city is as the city's finances improve, they shared in the downside, they should share in the upside. But I'm going to say again, we can't spend a single dollar we don't have. And so we're going to be prudent to make sure that the money is there, and that's why we're taking this step.
Were there any takebacks in this deal? Did the city ask the officers to give up anything?
There's one minor issue. There was a glitch in the last contract that allowed one of the unions in particular that if somebody worked 4 hours, they could go home sick for the second 4 hours being paid for the full day. And we didn't really like the trend that was going the last few months. So we cleaned that up so that an officer could only once a quarter go home sick after 4 hours and get paid for a full day. That was the only change.
What was it before? Was it limitless?
It wasn't limited, but it didn't exist at all before the start of this year. But we were noticing a trend in some areas where a lot of people were starting to go home sick, and so I think everybody agreed that we needed to put a reasonable limit on that. That's a pretty minor piece of scope of thing. That's the only thing I believe that anyone in this contract, any kind of a restriction.
Well, one other enhancement, I think you want to know about enhancement. One enhancement that affects two of the unions was something called standby. Standby. And standby is important. That was something that, I grew up with in another agency. And so in conversations during my monthly meetings with union leadership, we had talked about this. And so this is included as part of this reopener.
Paid on call,
what
is
is
that what that is?
Yeah, if you're on call, it's called standby. So if, like you take our homicide unit, for example, they're on standby an entire weekend. And so the provision that was outlined is 1 hour for every 8 hours of straight time. And that's not inconsistent with what other agencies are doing. It just, they didn't have it in this department.
And if an officer already has, like say, a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree, will they get that 2% of that 4% on top of the other 4% starting in January also?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are the figures right now? You said there's 220 open positions?
Roughly 220. And the other part of this whole recruitment, we're going to be making another announcement. We're going to really change how we engage our recruitment efforts. We're going to take it to the next level. We know that this effort, increasing the wages, is going to help us, but we're going to be more aggressive about how we recruit.
How many are we budgeted for, though?
I think we have 220.
Budgeted at 2,400, and we've got 2,200 filled.
And then, I guess, is there an explanation for if we have the money, why are we going so slow, 30 every 2 months? I mean,
recruitment, and it's not just in Detroit, this is across the nation. I've talked to my counterparts in other cities. It's a challenge today. It really is a challenge, and when you talk about trying to identify and recruit the most qualified, it's not always easy. So that's a continued work in progress.
But let me be clear on this. There is nothing slow about what we're doing. When you hire a new police officer, they go through a rigorous 6 months academy course. You would not hire people and put them on the street. And so 30 people in an academy class is an appropriate number to be trained properly. And so the schedule is every 2 months for the next year, we're going to have a new class of 30, and they start, and you have a fixed number of training officers who are doing the training as well. If we actually fill 30 per class every 60 days for the next year, we're going to be just fine. The problem is when you start filling 23, 18 is going to be the issue. But right now, we're staffed okay. We just need to start filling up these academy classes.
Mr. Mayor, I know you told me last week that the department is losing about 15 officers per month. So would that mean if you're bringing on 30, you lose 15, you're really only gaining 15?
So we are averaging over this year 13 a month that we've lost. Our goal is to knock that attrition rate down to 10 a month. And if we can run academy classes of 30 at a time, we will gain on it. The other thing is we are in the process of moving between 200 and 300 officers from what I would call civilian jobs back to the street, which is why people have not seen a drop in the response time. So we're okay today, and we've hired a huge number of civilian dispatchers and people who work payroll and the like. But that's also going to come to an end pretty shortly. And so this is going to be it. We got to fill 30. If we fill 30 every 60 days, we'll gain 5, 10 a month, and that's what we need to do. You don't really want to flood. I don't have to tell people here a whole lot of people all at one time, given the life and death stakes of police officers.
But what about the number of the 2,200 officers that are currently on the force? Those that are eligible for retirement, how many are eligible for retirement? And if they all opted to retire, where would that?
We've been saying that for a while, but if you take a look at January to November, we're averaging right about 13 a month. And so that's been the trend line. There's no reason to think that trend line is going to change. What we are seeing is some people who vest at 10 years and then go ahead for another system, and we're hoping that the things we're doing here will start.
Specific number of those that are eligible.
I mean, somebody can give you a number, but
I don't have a specific number, but I want to also
I mean,
just
I'm
add.
just wondering if that was, if they opted to retire at a faster rate than the 13.
they could have done that a year and a half ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. We're not seeing it.
Well, and that's not, we talk about retention, certainly retaining those. Some had 10 to 12 years on. That's certainly an issue. I mean, some other give backs that has nothing to do with this reopener. But like, for example, I mean, when you talk about recruitment, when I arrived here, they hadn't had a big recruitment effort. In fact, not even, a month or two after I got here, we had a recruitment fair that we had like close to 700 people show up and interested in the job. So that was a positive, and we continued that effort. We just have to keep doing more, and now that we have this, we have something else that we can give. The other thing, and you talk about retention, we just had a sergeants and lieutenants exam now probably a month and a half ago. First time in 8 years that there's been a sergeant and lieutenant promotional exam. And so our commitment, and the commitment I've made, is that we would continuously have promotional exam, because that keeps an organization vibrant, and it certainly does have a positive effect on morale.
Just to clarify, the 13 a month, does that include retirees and officers transferring to other departments?
Yeah, we can get you exact numbers, but if you go back to last year, it was closer to 20 or so. We were seeing some serious attrition issues during the bankruptcy. Nobody knew what was going to happen. It has gotten significantly better this year, and so we'll stay ahead of it with the schedule.
But still about 15 a month, and 13 of those are retired?
No, I'm saying if you go back and look at November, we'll get you the exact numbers, but it's been running about 13 a month. I don't know what we get, 4, 5, 6 retirees, and then a couple of junior people leave for another department. A few other people hit 10 years, invest, and go to another department. We pretty well track all of it, and we can give you those numbers.
Where the $8 million came from again?
So we are building a new 8th precinct at Grand River and Lasser next to the Myers. And so as the chief alluded to earlier, a number of precincts were closed. So for example, the 5th and 9th got consolidated on Gratiot. We're about to open in the next few weeks a new 5th precinct on Connor. The 6th and 8th got consolidated. So you're out in northwest Detroit and you're nowhere near a police precinct. So the plan of adjustment provided for the building of a new 8th precinct for $8 million. It was going to come out of the operational budget of the Detroit Police Department. There has been, over the years, over the last 10 or 20 years, various bond issues approved by the voters to do capital projects for police and other departments. And so John Hill, in his thorough diligence, came in and said, we've got bond issues, capital money available to build this police precinct. It makes no sense to take money out of the operational budget of the police department when the voters have already approved capital to build the precinct. And so by paying for the 8th precinct out of the previously approved capital funds, it freed up $8 million in the police operating budget, which is where that came from. And if you want a more technical explanation, John Hill can give it to you. John, did I get it right? All right.
For Mr. Diaz or Mr. Mahone, when your officers, when you started discussing with them that this was a possibility, you may or may not be able to give them these raises they've been waiting for so long, what was their reaction?
Well, as we stated earlier, it was we've been down a really rough road, and obviously, under the terms of bankruptcy mediation, which wasn't the historical sense of contract negotiations, and moving out of that, the first reaction is, well, what's the catch? You know, what's on the other side of this? Is there a give? And of course, taking all things into consideration that what we've been through over the last several years, there's apprehension, and it's the mayor coming forth as well as the chief of police and the collective leadership team in the city of Detroit with the unions, and pointing out the specifics of this proposal. We're fairly confident that this is going to be all speed right ahead, and we're going to get this passed, and we're going to continue to improve on the benefits for our men and women in blue.
Aren't Zell also trying to get them to take 4% or 6 or 8, depending on where they are education-wise, rather than go for the getting the 10 back in 2019?
Right. Well, that's the point that the mayor he definitely drove home, is that the city can't spend money the city does not have. And the proposal as it was presented, believe me, the unions as a whole asked for more in recognition of what you just said. But again, the reality is the money that's there is what we have to work with. And so any way we can get that into improving the wages and benefits of our police officers is what we're talking about now, and that's what we have to approve.
I think you should have held out for more any of the unions.
I don't know if we had, it was made very clear, it wasn't a let's negotiate this. It was made abundantly clear that it was an either or.
I want to clarify Kim's question. The DPOA got 8% last October. This 4% is on top of that. So when you're talking about they lost 10
is already made up.
Now there are a number of years there they probably should have gotten raises, but I don't want you to think they lost 10 and they got 4.
Gotcha, okay.
Correct.
And when did they get the 8%?
Last October.
Chief and Mr. Mayor, on the training side of it, I know there had been some discussion of officers or potential recruits paying for the training because they come in and get training and leave and go to other departments because of the nature of the training here. Anything you can do to kind of stem that tide? Because now you throw in a $2,000 tuition reimbursement on top of that. So, I mean, it almost seems like a double-edged sword. It might keep some here, but it might have some take advantage of that and then leave.
I know that was a strategy that the city explored long before I got here. And I know, Celia, you here. Maybe you can give some, I don't know what happened. It was ruled, state law that says we couldn't.
We're looking into it. Let's just leave it at that.
You are.
We're looking into it.
How much
And
does
I
it
know in
cost
other
to
cities
train
that
front office?
has worked very effectively. Beg your pardon?
What's the cost to train one officer?
I'd say roughly, and this is a rough estimate, probably 40,000. Anywhere between 35 and 40,000. You're talking about a 6-month academy. That's usually what it costs.
And that includes pay, correct?
Yes, because we pay our recruits as they go through the academy. So it's roughly about that per recruit.
Recruitment, do you anticipate casting in that kind of like Cincinnati did, going around the country or in the Midwest to try to bring officers in, or would you prefer to stay somewhat local?
Well, we want to stay regionally, and we've done well regionally, moving that forward. Certainly we are competing with other agencies outside. There are a lot of good reasons why one would want to be a Detroit police officer. It's the largest police department in the state of Michigan. Certainly there's more flexibility in terms of movement, job opportunities, promotional opportunities that you don't see in other agencies. A lot of these small agencies, you can spend your entire career as a beat officer. Not that that's a bad thing, there's not a lot of flexibility and diversity in terms of what you can experience.
Will you ban Cincinnati from your recruiting events here?
I've already had conversations with my colleagues in other cities, and I said stay out of Detroit, to the Atlanta police chief and the Cincinnati, but I said it, but they keep coming. Wouldn't you want to hire the very best? I know when I was laid off in the late 70s, Los Angeles cast a wide net into Detroit, knowing that we were faced with 1,500 police officers laid off, and they had planned to hire 300. They actually only hired 14 actual former Detroit police officers. And so it's not unusual that other cities want to hire the best. I mean, Detroit police officers are well trained.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.